Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to our continuing Saturday specials. This is War Room Pandemic. And today's special, this hour special, is the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP's information war against the world. In the first hour we did against America. We were honored to have Miles Guo on. And in fact, in this hour, we're going to have Miles back. Miles is going to join us in the second half of this show. Also, Zach, his nom de jour. He was on a couple of weeks ago. An incredible young man. We're going to go around the world. We just did America. We're going to go around the world. We're going to talk about Australia. We're going to talk about Hong Kong. We're going to talk about India, other places like that. But we want to start in Italy. Remember, we started War Room Pandemic. One of the very first things we focused on was in Italy. What happened in Italy with the pandemic, it happened shortly thereafter. It broke out in Wuhan. And we now know, with recent reporting, Jack, my sidekick today for this hour, that in both Turin and Milan, it started in Europe, and the reason was that's the industrial base of Italy, and it's where the most Chinese, the CCP's invested the most money and has the most people.
Yes, and I mean they found evidence of the virus on December 8th. That far back.
This is in the sewage system. We're getting this is all breaking over the last couple of days. We'll have more about that next week. That the Italian authorities are now saying that they're finding traces of COVID-19 or CCP virus, we call it, in the sewage system as early as December 8th of 2019. So that predates even Jack Maxey.
That does.
Jack Maxey gave us the heads up on December 26th, the day, Boxing Day, as we call it in England, or the day after Christmas. We're going to start the show, though. First, we're going to go back to Italy. A very special guest. I've wanted to have him on the show for quite a while, because he's probably, I think, and I've spent a lot of time in Italy, worked on a lot of the politics over there. We have actually the monastery in Tresolti we won in court. It's the Academy of the Judeo-Christian West that we're going to launch here online because of the COVID situation down at Tresolti, about 60 miles south of Rome. But when I've been over there the last couple of years, I met a young man, Francesco Gagliette, who's the head of a research firm called Policy Sonar, that has the most astute geopolitical and financial analysis of not just Italy, but the entire EU. He has written a book called Red Contagion, Why Italy Has Become China's Trojan Horse in the West. And it is not in English yet. It's going to be published here shortly in Italian. We hope to be able to aid and assist it in becoming published in English, and actually, I would love to have it in Mandarin, because it's one of the things we've been talking about. So I want to bring in Francesco. Francesco joins us now from Italy. Sir, thank you very much for joining us here on the special edition of War Room Pandemic, the Chinese Communist Party's information war against the world. The book is Red Contagion. It's obviously incredibly controversial, but I'd like to talk first about your journey. Right, your journey from being a policy and geopolitical analyst, principally focused on Italy, its relationship to the EU and to America. Why did you become so maniacally focused on China? And why are you saying that this is the biggest, most important thing that's happening in Italy is China's involvement?
Because Italy lies across fault lines, north, south, east, west. But nevertheless, it's always been a part of the West. It's even been the cradle of the West. So seeing it drift towards Asia, and especially towards authoritarian China, is a nightmare. And Italy has a very fragile and corrupt political system, which is heavily exposed to China's charm offensive. And what Italy has that no one else has is the presence of the Vatican on Italian soil. And so these days, the Vatican, which is hugely influential in the Italian political system, is tilted toward China. It wants a deal with China, and it is offering Italy to entice China. So what we have at the pinnacle of the Italian political system is Catholics. Our head of state is a leftist Catholic. Our prime minister is a leftist Catholic. These people use the Vatican as a compass, as a geopolitical compass. And these days, that compass tells you Xi Jinping and CCP. As a consequence, the clout of China in Italy is gigantic. What we see in popularity ratings, in surveys, is that a vast majority of Italians want neutrality, and that many of them, if a war between China and the US begins, would side with China. This is extremely worrying, and I blame it partly or largely on the Pope.
So, Francesca, hang on for a second, and Jack, you obviously jump in here, but my head's blowing up already. You're playing to, we not only have a vast American audience on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on America's Voice.news, on Newsmax TV. We're also international on shortwave radio, nexus.org, IRS. But we're also subtitled in Mandarin, and we go out to a massive Chinese audience. My head's blowing up. How can Italy, and you call it the cradle of the West, really the center of Rome, the Roman Republic, which our founders, the founders of the United States, modeled the government of the United States on? Obviously the cradle of the Catholic Church, where St. Peter and St. Paul went to Rome to spread the word of Christ to the Gentiles. Also the Roman Empire, which, both Britain and the United States kind of modeled themselves also on. How can Rome and how can the Italian people model themselves on or be drifting towards a totalitarian dictatorship that the Chinese Communist Party is? And when you talk about the Vatican and the church, the most murderous, atheistic, materialistic, communist dictatorship that even thwarts what the Soviet Union was, which John Paul II and Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher helped to bring down, it boggles the mind that it's even a possibility. How could this possibly be?
It's happening. And it's the nightmare of every Anglo-American strategist. So once upon a time, their nightmare used to be a rapprochement between Russia and Germany. It used to be traditional Eurasia, okay? These days, it's much more sophisticated. It's China, which is not only bringing about the Eurasian nightmare, but it's also welding it with Africa and the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. And Italy is obviously a big part of that mosaic, because Italy brings you the Mediterranean. So I think that in Rome, many believe that Italy can play a strategic role in all this. And therefore, it can extract big dividends from being so important in China's global strategy. Okay, now that's a very worrying line of thinking, but it is one that exists. And because of that, I think it will create huge damage to Italy, because Italy cannot be allowed to drift towards this authoritarian club of China, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, you name them. It's geopolitical authoritarian powers who want to have a power system that is completely alternative to the Western one. And
this has to be, but for Francesca, this has to be about money and the corruption in the Italian political system. There's got to be, the CCP uses money and cash. I remember when the five-star head went over to Beijing, quite frankly, it was embarrassing because he was like a young boy, so wide-eyed with all the material goods that Beijing had and what they were promising this on One Belt, One Road. This has to be the payoff to the corrupt Italian political system. and also to the corruption inside the Vatican. Is that what's driving? Is it geopolitical concerns, or does it come down just to crass, these guys can pay and the Americans can't?
Yes, there is that angle to it. Of course, there is corruption involved. We have already evidence of also civil servants reaching out for money. We had a gigantic scandal at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs with a senior Italian diplomat put under criminal investigation for trading secrets with China. So that's probably that's the tip of the iceberg. We'll just have to wait and see how many other cases exist. But yes, money is a big part of that. As you put it brutally, Italians are driven by that and haven't seen much of it coming from the other side of the Atlantic for a while. And China has been throwing money at whatever moves. So yes, money is a main driver. And the Vatican is another big driver. It's a combination of factors. There's not just one factor at play. But yes, money is.
But Francesco, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is an atheistic, materialistic, communistic, gangster dictatorship that has taken, I believe, outside the Dalai Lama, the holiest man in the world, Cardinal Zen of Hong Kong, this courageous bishop, has sat there and said, these people are murderers. They've shut down the underground Catholic Church. They have put a phony church on top of it. How possibly, with the flow of information, could the Vatican be in business with a materialistic, atheistic dictatorship that's principal focus, one of it is the destruction of all spiritual endeavors, whether it's Buddhist or Muslim, but particularly Christianity and Catholicism?
Yes, you're right. The Vatican should not be doing this, but this Pope is anti-American, and I also think that he is penetrating the Chinese religious market, even if it comes at a huge cost, is a move to have a first mover advantage vis-a-vis the evangelicals. He clearly hates Protestants and evangelicals, which he considers proxies of the US. Let's not forget, this Pope is not a friend of the US. For sure.
Francisco, it's Jack Maxey here. Can I ask you a question about what's the feeling on the street? We're seeing in Western countries all around the world the sensibility of the man on the street blaming the Communist Chinese Party for releasing this virus on the world. Is that the feeling on the street in Italy, or are they that blue pill there?
So there is some of that. But don't forget, Italians have been bombarded with Chinese propaganda echoed by Italian politicians 24/7. So I'm sure that those who think with their own minds are disgusted at what they see, so like China spreading the virus and then Italian politicians thanking China publicly. Okay. But many others are the victims of a gigantic brainwashing machinery at work. So the real problem is not so much Italians. It is Italian politicians parroting Chinese propaganda and using Italian state broadcasters to do that. So that's the biggest issue. I think that the man on the street is wise enough, but there is a gigantic propaganda machine at work.
Francesco, we would like you to stay over for the next segment. I've got a couple more things I want to go through with you. The book is called Red Contagion. It's just out in Italian, but here at the War Room, we're going to make every effort to try to get it in an American publisher. How Italy has become the Trojan horse for the West, China's Trojan horse for the West. A stunning book from one of the most brilliant young men in Europe, Francesco Gagliette. We're going to take a short commercial break here on War Room Pandemic. Remember, go to hashtag War Room Pandemic, become part of the community, become part of the conversation. Go to the live chat on YouTube. Want to hear you at War Room 2020. Make sure that we hear your voice. Get your comments in. We're going to return with Red Contagion on the War Room Pandemic in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. This is our second part of our Saturday special, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP's information war against the world. And already shocking revelations. Our guests from Policy Sonar, one of the top think tanks in all of Europe, headquartered in Italy, Francesco Gagliete. He's written a stunning book that is now gripping the Italian elites. It's called Red Contagion: Why Italy Has Become China's Trojan Horse in the West. And if you listen to this broadcast every week, and we're going to have Zach on, the nom de jour of one of the young freedom fighters. If you listen to this every week, you've heard the voices of the Chinese people. You've heard the voices from mainland China. You've heard the agony in their voice about the suppression of religion, whether they were Falun Gong, whether they Tibetan Buddhists, whether they were Muslim, every aspect of it. You've heard this. And now to know, Francesco says the leadership of this, the driving force of this Trojan horse, or accepting this Trojan horse, is the senior leadership in the Catholic Church, particularly a Pope, Pope Francis, who Francesco says is virulently anti-American. I've only got you for a few more minutes. This book is amazing. We've got to figure out how to get it in English. But the question I have for you is, where do we go from here, and how can people in America, we have a lot of people in the hedge fund community, a lot of the news producers, but particularly the deplorables, and we have a massive audience in China because this will all be subtitled in Mandarin. What happens next? Where is this real? Is Italy start to become part of the CCP's alliance, like Persia, like Pakistan, like Turkey, like Russia? Do they fall into the orbit in the heart of the West? Do they fall into the orbit of the CCP?
It can happen. And paradoxically, right now, the biggest antidote to China's influence in the Mediterranean is not Italy, it is Turkey. There is a big reawakening of former empires, of course, and the Ottoman Empire lays claim on the Mediterranean, especially in the Levant, and it does not like China's expansion on the back of Iran into the Mediterranean. So forget about Italy. Italy is weak and on its knees. It will not. It's all about appeasing China and pleasing China. It is Turkey that is fighting back, although, well, not always in a very democratic and gentle manner. But Turkey has a pride, and it is fighting back. So I think that ultimately China's horrors will have to be exposed. Italy's relations with China cannot simply be allowed to happen. And I think that the moral issues have come to the very top of anyone's agenda. In the center left in Italy is now having a very hard time because it is in power with the pro-China Five Stars movement, and because in the US also the liberal media are now attacking China. And of course, PD believes that treats liberal media as their own Bible. So PD is now very embarrassed of the foreign policy preferences of its coalition partner. So let's wait. Let's see what happens, and let's take the fight to the highest level possible.
Last question. The five-star movement is clearly kowtowing to China. Where is Salvini and where is the Northern League? The Northern League is basically, their power comes from that exact area where China, the CCP's made so much investment in Turin, in Milan. Where does Salvini, who's been, presented to the American media as the nationalist populist leader of, given all his mistakes politically, still the voice of nationalism and populism in Italy? Where is Salvini and the Northern League, or the League, come out on this China situation?
Well, let's let's say this for what it is. The League, for a long time, did not have any foreign policy agenda. Because, like many other Italian parties, it did not believe that having one was necessary. Okay. Then, when it seized power in 2018, it shared power with the Five Stars movement for 1 year. It committed a terrible error. It appointed an undersecretary for foreign trade, Michele Geraci, and Geraci clearly was a gigantic panda hugger, and he was one of the big architects of the Memorandum of Understanding for the Belt and Road Initiative, the infamous deal that Italy signed in Rome with Xi Jinping. Okay, so Geraci is entirely to blame on Salvini. I think Salvini was very naive and he regrets appointing Geraci. But this is to say that the League made a big faux pas at the beginning. Okay, but I must say that Salvini has for many months consistently criticized China on many aspects. So he's trying to make good on that. Okay. Within the same party, the governor of the League of Veneto, Luca Zaia, is probably a powerful force for change, and he's also anti-China. And let's not forget about Giorgia Meloni, Brothers of Italy. Meloni too has an Atlanticist positioning. So I think that overall, in the center-right, there is a consensus that China poses a terrible threat to peace, democracy, and freedom in the world. And if there have been errors in the past, that's no longer the case these days. I think that China has been clearly identified as a threat.
Francesco, thank you very much. We would definitely look to push this book or get this book awareness of this book to an American publisher, because I think it's quite shocking. The book is Red Contagion: How Italy Has Become China's Trojan Horse for the West. Francesco Gagliette from Policy Sonar. Thank you very much for joining us today. Boy, was that shocking. Let's go to, we're going to bring Zach in here momentarily. I want to go to Australia, talk about information war, literally a massive assault. When we say information war, part of this is cyber. Remember, Leon Panetta, when he left being Secretary of Defense for President Obama, said his number one concern was a Pearl Harbor type attack on cyber and or maybe EMP. And this is when we talk about shifting from a information war to a kinetic war. This could always be the lead. The Australian people have started to push back in this this alliance of liberty that Dave Ramaswamy and others have come on the show, particularly with what's happening up on the Tibetan border with the Chinese Communist Party, Red Army, and the PLA and India. The CCP has gone in full attack mode into Australia.
Well, you have to understand, Australia rejected Huawei, and then the immediate thing that the Chinese did was they stopped accepting agricultural exports. They're threatening to stop taking their iron ore, et cetera. They're threatening to stop sending their students there. They want to put the pain economically into the Australian economy. So Australia began getting attacked, and this has been going on for some time. We just learned about it yesterday. This has been apparently going on for some time. They're attacking the electric grid. They're attacking military installations. They're attacking banking, all the elements of a modern society. Now, what's most frightening about this is they have not specifically identified China, because there are a few other actors who could do this: Iran, North Korea, Russia. But the reality is none of those other actors would have any interest in teaching Australia a lesson right now in the way that China apparently is. Now, what is mostly worrisome about this is that the analysts are saying that the purpose of this is not necessarily to take down the electric grid. It's not necessarily to take down the Senate. It's not necessarily to take down the military. The purpose of this is to sow sort of an uneasiness in the Australian population concerning their institutions, concerning the strength and integrity of their military, their government, their grid, etc. They want to make people feel vulnerable. This is the purpose of this. And it's frightening that it's happening. And we're seeing this problem with China around the world, and Steve and I are going to get into it, I think, in a moment, concerning their export of AI, artificial intelligence, some of these systems that allow them to monitor every single human in a state. They are exporting these systems as an off-the-shelf package. Now, the beautiful thing about this, as we'll talk about in a little more detail after the break, the Chinese government becomes like the back office for your intel program in Zimbabwe, in the Philippines, in the Middle East. They're selling it throughout Africa. So, in effect, all of your cameras on your street are also being monitored inside Beijing. So they are creating a web of intelligence control, facial recognition, everything. TikTok is part of this. Zoom is part of this. Everybody should be frightened. And when you combine this with the fact that we know that they are taking DNA samples of every single Chinese male, this is over 700 individuals. The purpose of this, they say, is to track criminals. The reality and the frightening thing about it, and Amnesty International even talked about it, is that we know that the Chinese target entire families for punishment when one person walks off the reservation. And also, we have to remember this as Americans. They are purchasing this DNA information all around the world. When you take these tests, man.
But it's Thermo. What's the name of the company in Boston? We got to jump here to a break. Miles Guo is going to join us next. We're going to have Zach at the back end of Miles Guo. We're doing calling a little audible. But what's it? Fisher?
Thermo Fisher is
you see him on MSNBC all the time talking about testing for therapeutics and talking about testing for potential vaccines. They're one of the ones that are helping with these DNA tests, and that is to control the Chinese families when somebody becomes a dissident and whistleblower like Zach or like Miles Guo. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. CCP's Information War Against the World will continue with Miles Guo and then Zach after that.
Thank you. War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to our special edition, the second hour. It's now the CCP's Information War Against the World. We just heard startling revelations from Francesco Gagliette about Italy in his new book, Red Contagion, how Italy has become China's Trojan horse in the West. And it was absolutely stunning. It's not just the greedy political parties that are taking money, particularly on the One Belt, One Road situation. It's led by an anti-American pope in the Vatican. And this is about the secret deal. Remember, the Vatican has a secret deal with the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party being a totalitarian, Marxist, atheistic, gangster entity. Then Jack went through everything that's happening in Australia, with Australia trying to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party. And remember, it's not just in full-on information and cyber war against them. They're trying to rattle the Australian people's beliefs in their institutions. This is what's happening here. And this is why our next guest, Miles Guo, has been said in the last hour. He has said consistently, as we play parts of the special, we played parts of the special for the audience. Miles Guo says the number one focus of the Chinese Communist Party is the destruction of the United States, because the United States is the leader of the free world. Miles, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Hi, sir. Hi, Jack. Hi, Chris. Everybody. Good afternoon.
Miles, and I appreciate you coming back in for this second hour about the CCP's war against the world and information warfare. We just had a gentleman, one of the top thinkers from Italy, that came in and said the CCP's involvement in Italy is monumental and is not being reported. But what shocked us the most, he said it's really led by the Vatican in a secret deal with Xi Jinping and Wang Qishan, a secret deal between the Vatican and Beijing. Can you tell the audience, how real is this? Is the CCP that involved in Italy? Are they in business with the Catholic Church? What is the situation in Italy from the CCP's perspective, and what can America do about that?
Hi, sir. Italy in the Europe And it's the CCP is must be control the country because Italy have the very high technology about function also very location, very strategy. So CCP is the very high priority want combine this Italy something. Also the government peoples, BGY. Because, sir, you need know, Italy with China, all the trio, totally at $15 billion. $15 billion, not a big amount. You look at China, Australia, it's the $200 billion. After 2013, CCP have the 2035, 2049, the strategy, one build, one road. They make the strategy. Every country, we are having the trio, the deal, every avenue, 5% use to BGY and intelligent. So you look at Italy, it's $15 billion and with the trio, totally amounts with China. So how much can get the BGY as the combined Italy? It's the totally nearly, it's the 100 million, 150 million, not big members. But Australia, $200 billion of the trio with the Sino Australia, they get 1 billion every year used to against Australia, combined to Australia. They have the 100 or 100 million dollars against and buy as Italy. Now, 2014, CCP inside have the decision. Every year they want $2 billion to pay to Vatican. To Vatican influence the Vatican policy about China, Vatican and Christian Catholic want Vatican shut up, follow to CCP about religion, the policy. That's disaster. Since the 2014, it's the $2 billion. Before every year, just $100 million. All the Italy, $100 million to against Italy, used to intelligent BGY. But only Vatican is the $2 billion. That's all the fundamental reason CCP knows. If Vatican talk the truth about giving Chinese, the Christian Catholic, give the truth that really can help the Christian, Catholic, CCP is dying. CCP is so worried this. So they use $2 billion, give to Vatican, $1.5 billion, give Australia, $150 million to Italy. That's why you look at the last, 8-10 years, go to disaster, Vatican, Italy, and Australia, sir. Thank you.
I just want to go back to this because you're talking about payments that have been made, billions of dollars have been spread around in these countries to buy off the elites. And for the term, if you don't catch the term out there in our audience, BGY is basically where they know they have blackmail on you for sexual reasons, or they pay you, they make payments. It's about gold, it's about sexual favors, it's all of that, where they're basically corrupting the West. And Miles has been at the lead of the whistleblower movement with H&A and others, where he's exposed this time and time and time again. I want to go back to something, though, because the American audience, a lot of people are just coming to the understanding, Miles, that not everyone in China is a communist, that only of the 1.4 billion people, our audience now knows there's only 90 million CCP members. What people, I think, are just coming to understand, why is it that the CCP, which is an atheistic, godless, materialistic, communist group of gangsters, why do they fear Christianity? And why do they fear Catholicism? Why do they fear the Vatican of what it stands for in the word of Christ? Why are they so deathly afraid of Christianity? And why are they so afraid of the Catholic Church?
Sir, it's the CCP. I think they created the evil religion. It's the CCP. Xi and Wang Jie say, Xi Jinping is God. Xi Jinping representative of all the God. They don't want any religion go to China. This is why they built firewalls, don't want the Chinese to know outside any truth. This is why they firewalls. That's why they worry, Vatican is give the Chinese Christian Catholic people know the outside the truth. They want to combine the Vatican. Then another side, why build this firewall? Because they don't want internet find the truth. They want to create a new religion, new God. It's CCP. Another side, they buy America, the big, huge company, help CCP build the firewall, help the CCP go to all. CCP is really God. CCP is the religion. You need, trust and depend on CCP and the chairman and the CCP. The CCP abandoned your father, abandoned your mother. Your everything must be contributed to the CCP. Another side, CCP only believe 3 power can kill CCP, take down CCP. Number 1, religion, faith, right? So they must be combined with Vatican. Number 2, they know this is the dollar, American dollar so strong. They must be take down American dollar. Number 3, they believe only American army force can take down the CCP. So they want to take American dollar down, take American force down, and combine all the Vatican, the religions, shut up. After they want Vatican say, Xi Jinping is the God. They want to, so this is the attackers. So sir, this is a fundamental reason they formed the 2012. They have the plans. BGY the world, take down America, leading the world, they control the economy. That's why they want to control everything. Then you think Vatican very important. They don't want the Vatican is one day to talk the truth against the CCP. That's why they pay $2 billion can buy the Vatican, sir.
I just want to go back and reiterate for our American audience what Miles just said. There are 3 top reasons. Number 1 is religion or faith, and that's why it's so important that they get into the Vatican. Number 2 is the American dollar, and that is why they're focused on not just destroying the American economy, but the American dollar as a global reserve currency system. And number 3 is the American military, that they're very concerned about the American military. I want to pivot now, Miles, and we've got a couple of minutes here, but I would like to keep you over the break and bring you back. But for here, I want to talk about 2 allies in the region. Particularly, I want to go to Australia. Australia has had a problem with corruption by the CCP coming in over a number of years and not just buying assets and buying companies and starting to become a large property holder, and particularly minerals. But there was a scandal a number of years ago about actually buying and financing politicians. Now, the Australians started to push back on that, and this current administration of Morrison is really one of the things he ran on was anti-CCP. Over this last couple of days, and you brought this to my attention, that the CCP in their cyber capability and information war capability will go and attack people. We now know that they're full-scale attack in Australia, and they're trying to rattle people's belief in their institutions. What is the CCP's plan for America's ally, Australia?
Sir, that's why before I talk the numbers wrong, it's the signal in Australia, the trio totally every year is 200 billions. Before it's 1% use against Australia, BGY Australia, and use intelligence. Now it's 5%. So it's $10 billion every year paid can buy Australia politician and intelligence BGY. Australia for CCP only one is the value for. It's the resource. And they just care the resource. They want to control Australia. In Australia, in the world, number 3 spy, big amount. America 60,000 spy in America. In Australia, 30,000 spy in Australia. So they want to control all Australia because of the resource. So this is Australia's disaster. Every year it's $10 billion by politicians, control the media, control the resource. That's why Australia, you look at the media, everything is anti-Trump president, anti-whistleblower movement, anti-everything, but don't anti-CCP. So Australia is very dangerous. But the CCP look down them, don't care. Just care, take the resources, sir. That's a fundamental reason. Thank you.
Miles, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we return after our break, we'd like to ask you about India. In the United States, is now a big focus on the Tibetan border, the border with China. There's actual military engagement. There's been a number of Indian soldiers dead. There's been many more Chinese soldiers dead, the PLA. We're going to take a short commercial break. This is our second part of our Saturday special, the Chinese Communist Party's information war against the world. Our guest is Miles Guo, one of the co-founders of the New Federal State of China and also the head of the whistleblower movement to help the Chinese people expose all the corruption and all the evil of the dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party. Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon. Make sure you go to hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want to hear your voice at War Room Pandemic, at War Room 2020. We're going to return after a commercial break to the War Room. Miles Guo, Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon. We'll be back in just a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On America's Voice.news, the streaming platform for the Trump Revolution, later today it will be at the rally in Tulsa. Also, the John Fredericks Radio Networks, FM 99.1, 103.9 in Chicago, Newsmax TV throughout the world in Mandarin on G News, GTV, and G Media. Also, IRS and shortwave radio throughout the world, particularly Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe, Russia, and India. We're at a world at war. In fact, this special is the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP's information war against the world. We focused on Italy. We focused on Australia. We're about to get to Italy, India. Our guest is Miles Guo from the New Federal State of China, also Guo Media, and one of the heads of the whistleblower movement, the founder. But first, for every entrepreneur out there, NetSuite by Oracle, netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, the 7 action items you need to take as every entrepreneur. Remember, Oracle is the number one platform on the cloud, and NetSuite is the number one tool for entrepreneurs. If your company's 1 million to 100 million, over 20,000 of your compadres that are entrepreneurs use it. So make sure you use it too. I want to return now to Miles Guo. Miles, I just want to say to the individuals before we ask Miles about India, what Miles said about the Chinese Communist Party and the Vatican, Jack, affected me because, Cardinal Zen had told me after Miles made such a big deal to say, hey, this secret treaty is not acceptable. This secret treaty is the CCP's way to take over the Vatican, to take over the Catholic Church. What Cardinal Zen told me, says, hey, these bishops that the Chinese Communist Party picks, they're married. They don't really follow the doctrines of the church. He says they're essentially members of the Chinese Communist Party that are just on the surface Catholics, and that's what destroys the flock that have been tortured and maimed by the Chinese Communist Party. So, Miles, we want to thank you for teeing this up and for making sure that people understand the biggest threat to the Chinese Communist Party in China is Christianity, the Catholic Church, and spirituality of every nature, whether it's Buddhism, Islam, etc. This materialistic dictatorship cannot live if people have a spiritual yearning. Miles, in India, on the border up there, we've now seen a conflict. You've been the best at being able to project out what's happening. Why is the CCP, why is the PLA down on the border of India, and how serious is this? Every day we get another report. Modi's not going to back up. How serious is this border conflict on the border of China and India up in the Himalayas?
Thank you, sir. CCP, before the 70 years, they only use Taiwan issue and anti-Americanism and the Japanese, the world history. And India, the brought the land, these are the issues. They move the eye, don't focus the inside problem and the inside, trouble. They just move the inside, the people, the eye, go to outside, focus on another some things. That's why last 7 years, is the CCP have trouble, economy, inside political, the war, they only use the solution, never change. I don't think that, India, about in the, Tibet with the CCP, the broad for the issues can make a big war. That's not a big deal. That's always a solution. Deng Xiaoping, Chairman Mao, everybody. Last, 50 years, all use this one is move the inside the eye, don't focus inside the problem. So, but, CCP really know how can control, balance India, economy, and balance Pakistan. They know how can threaten, India, threaten Palestine. This is called Asia is a strategy. I don't think this is a so big deal. But you look at the last 50 years, they never used the Russia and with the China broad of, the broad of control any issue, move the inside the eye. That's why they cannot, play the games with Russia. They cannot play games give Russia the peoples. They always win, take down America, use anti-America, move the inside the focus. And India, and Taiwan, and Japan, always. That's why, sir, America with China is a trillion amount every year, $600 billion. They use the 5%, it's $30 billion. Make the intelligent can buy your country, take down your country, buy your politicians, make corruption. They anti-American every time, very useful, very successful. Why? Because American inside the people very cooperate with the CCP. Oh, you want to play the game? I wish you play the games. Help you solve the inside problem. India, same. India always too noisy, talking, I'm angry, but never make a big deal. This is nothing, I think so. So this is CCP, look at 50 years, all the solution, also Japan, India, and Taiwan. You doesn't care this. American don't buy these the games. American need now. CCP use this, move this out of focus. American need to focus the point. Who gave America and the world the coronavirus? Who gave America it's the trouble? Who killed Americans? America need to take down the firewall, stop the warfare, and the information war, and it must be take down all the American spy system. That's American need to focus. So we don't need to focus India and the two small issues. They want American. Oh, you talk the issues. Steve Bannon, you focus the India and broad of the issues. They don't want to talk CCP. Kill American in the coronavirus. That's the totally things. But this is always the game, always the solution. You don't need to carry this, sir. Thank you.
Miles, I want to thank you very much. We know you've rattled the CCP because all they want to talk about is the new federal state of China. We'll have you back on next week to discuss that in depth, this new government entity that is focused on taking down the CCP. The whistleblower movement has had such a big impact, and we know from our audience every week, week in and week out on Saturdays, the 2-hour specials we do with the voice of the whistleblower movement and people that you have nurtured and trained. So it's been quite amazing. I want to thank you very much for taking time away from your activities to join us here. This has been the second part of our special this week, the Chinese Communist Party's information war against the world. We want to thank Francesca Galetta from Italy, Miles Grove from the whistleblower movement in the new federal state of China for joining us. We'll see you Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Remember, tonight I'm on Jesse Waters at Fox.